Can you give me an example of TI versus FI? Like an example of the same situation?
Sure. I want to actually use the example of a person, of a human, right? And now, remember, the concept of an ontological bias is a very subtle but very potent thing, because it's about the attitude that one approaches the object with. It's all in the manner of treatment. There's this thing that happens a lot. If you hear enough TI leads talking, they will say the word human in a way that is sterile and impersonal. For example, instead of saying person, they'll say human, or so they'll say Homo sapien. Homo sapien is a very sterile way of calling a human. It's detached, because it's like you're not belonging to the species. You're talking about your species in third person by saying Homo sapien. Like, for example, if you say, if I went to the store today and I saw 5 Homo sapiens, that's a very almost a robotic statement. And who talks like that, right?
Yeah.
But see, in doing that, it's a very clinical approach. So TI will talk about humans as though they were any other kind of phenomenon in the world, like a rock, like a building, like a Homo sapien is another object in the world. So even though it is a living object, it's still being treated like, I don't want to say a non-living object, because it will understand technically that it's alive, but the treatment of the object is no different than an inanimate object. I've heard a lot of TI users in interviews, and funny enough, even myself, will say things like, humans are really, they're just algorithms. Like, a human is actually just an algorithm. And our biological processes are just algorithms playing out. And so because we're an algorithm, let's just take the example further. Because we're an algorithm, technically, all of our preferences could be learned by a super intelligent AI, which could tell us exactly what happiness means for us. It can define happiness for us by taking all of our data and then outputting, this is what would make you happy. And maybe that could mean choosing who to marry or who to be, what kind of career to have. These things can be automated in an impersonal way, because you're a person, but you're an impersonal person. Like, you're actually not anything different from other data that could be analyzed in the world.
Yeah. So TI treats every object as non-living. Is that right? Or
yes.
Are they? Yeah.
It's more like an even playing field. It's more like it's unbiased, or it doesn't privilege those kind of objects to other kinds of objects. That doesn't mean it's harsher. Like, it doesn't mean that a TI lead would cut into a person just like they would cut into an apple, because other instincts of the mind would certainly intervene, because the moral instinct would kick in. But it's just mental comprehension wise, just in an impersonal way, they know that everything's made out of atoms. Your atoms, an apple isn't atoms. At some level, it's just.
Oh yeah, okay. I think I'm mainly TI. That makes sense. Because to me, everything's atoms. People are just complex robots. Do you know what I mean? It's in a way complex organic robots, right? I can theoretically create a robot as complex as human beings. So we just happen to be organic. So TI treats every object as non-living, whereas FI treats every object as living.
Yes, but we need to move on to FI and define what that means exactly. Because as I just mentioned, it's not as simple as technically seeing things as non-living, because TI will recognize, oh, this is an organism, and it knows what an organism is, but the treatment of it is no different than anything else. So likewise, FI understands the difference between living and non-living things at a technical level, but the treatment of FI, of objects, how should I say, it has a relationship. And what I mean by that is like an emotional relationship to each object, where it judges the object at a value level for its merit. I don't know if they would say it to themselves, but they would feel that table looks a little scary to me, or that table looks a little I don't want to say upset, but that's why they're great artists, actually. They'll see a table, a chair, or a painting, and it evokes an emotional vibe out of every object, and evokes a vibe that is related to how living beings respond to it.
What did you say? Every object emits a emotion?
A vibe, or it could be an emotional energy.
Like, it elicits an emotional response from the FI, right?
An emotional response. You could even say a moral response, a moral attitude. based on how it relates to their values. So, for example, TI might say, oh, that chair is a little asymmetrical, because asymmetrical is a neutral analysis. Oh, it's a little lopsided. That's just a neutral analysis. But FI might look at the chair that's a little asymmetrical and add more adjectives to that are very value-based. Oh, it's ugly. Oh, it's old. These are just some examples. Not to say that a TI user couldn't say the same words, but I'm not talking about the words themselves. I'm talking about what's behind the words. It's hard to explain without using words, but then the words could come out from the mouth of every type. But I hope you know what I mean.
Yeah. So it's basically, as you've said, how it affects life, right? Pretty much. Right?
Yeah. Let's say, for example, the chair is slanted, and so 3 times in the last week, this FI user has tried to sit on this chair, and the chair has made them tip over. And so they have this sense of the chair. This is an evil chair. I always fall on this chair. As if to give the chair a liveliness, to give it an attitude. Oh, this is an evil chair because it always makes people fall when they sit on it.
Can you give me an example? Just example and how a TI and FI might categorize it differently. Yeah.
Sure. Let me back up a little bit, because let's say if the categories of TI are Platonic versions of each of those objects, like the Platonic ball, a Platonic lamp, there's an ideal lamp, an ideal ball, an ideal chair, an ideal floor. But for FI, in addition to also recognizing that, there's the added component of moral attributes. So moral attributes could mean, for example, nice, mean, good, bad, friendly, unfriendly, lazy, brave. These words are very moral words, and they're descriptors. So those descriptors are also added when the object is looked at and registered. So its essence includes, oh, it's a chair, but it's also a strong chair. It's a bold chair, a brave chair.
Okay. So hang on a second. You're describing FI something built, like having extra information than TI, right?
Yes.
In a way. Yeah.
Yes.
So you have the TI categorization. So it has this identity of what a chair is, right?
Yeah.
And then, so TI would be like, oh, it has something like that's 4 legs. Something has 4 legs. A person can sit on it.
Yeah.
FI would attach to something or like comfort or something like that. Does it attach it to the object it's seeing, or does it attach to the identity itself?
It attaches additional identities to the object. Let me see. I think if I draw a diagram, it could help. Pardon my drawing here. I'm going to make a horrible chair. Okay. So let's say identity at some level, at a basic level, it's gonna be chair, right?
Yeah.
And so this category exists in a kind of mental space. Let's call this the mental space, right?
Yeah.
And then it gets attached onto the object. But other identities that are not so Platonic, that are more emotional, like a weak chair or like a dangerous chair or ugly chair, are then also attached by FI onto the chair. So they are also attributes that exist in an ideal space, but that are given to the object as well.
Yeah.
Now, I do want to say I do want to say TI users also end up adding these attributes, but through the FE pathway. So we all do this at some level. We all are able to see a chair, and we see a chair as a Platonic object, but then we also characterize the nature of the chair. The moral nature of the chair is always handled by the F process.
Yeah. Like, for example, I think evolutionarily would be like, you see this object, how useful it is to you, like how it affects you in a way, right?
Yes. How it affects you, how it affects human beings.
How does it benefit you out life, and how does it benefit life? It's how it benefits you. Right.
Exactly. Why does it matter? Like, exactly. The question is, why does it matter to me? Like, how does it affect me as a human being trying to survive in the world? What's the point? Oh, the point is it's nice and cozy. It's friendly. It's nice. I want it. That's very motivated by human instincts.
The JI part would that be the TI part? Like just the identity? Is the top just, or is that just JI? That's JI.
Yes, But remember when I mentioned how you could think of a Ti as just the pure Ji and Fi as Ji plus F.
Okay, so there is, in this example, there is no difference between pure Ji and Ti.
In this example, I'm going with this. This is one of the theories we have. Ultimately, it doesn't matter too much because the conclusion is the same, mathematically speaking anyway. But yeah, it essentially operates that way. One could say Ti is like Ji minus F, or you could say that it doesn't have F in the first place.
Sure. Okay.
But the math comes out the same. So it just lacks this element. And I say this in my videos that the T processes are more sparse in the attributes they affirm in objects.
Sure. Okay. And because Fi considers, how does this object affect life?
Yeah.
And that elicits an emotion, right?
Yes.
All right. That's that's fine. Yeah.
Awesome. So from there, just to add a little closer point, from there, it would explain why Fi users, for example, have so many hot takes on things, so many opinions about things. And these opinions are very charged opinions. Why are they such charged opinions? Because they have it elicits a lot of affect in them for how it affects life. And they have a lot of opinions about how they would see things.
I find they're very fussy. Yeah. Like the TI users are very tedious. They're like, oh no, this is that. No, that's not exactly right. That's not right. Yeah, like that's not what it is. They're like smart asses. Yeah. Me included. They're not like, no, not what it is. That's not what it is. You have to be right. Otherwise, what's the point in saying anything semantically, definition wise?
Yeah.
And Fi is, I don't like this. I don't like that. No, it's like, that looks weird. Oh, I don't like the vibes in the place, or I don't like the vibes from that person. Because I have a friend like that. I'm just like, oh, please, come on.
Yeah.
Like Ti and Fi are not symmetrical. There's like asymmetry here.
Hey? Yes, but the asymmetry is countered by the fact that Te and Fe are also asymmetrical.
Okay, so, yeah, let's go there.
As a starting point, I want to use an example that I did provide in the video of Te versus Fe. I don't know if you remember it, but I mentioned that for a mother taking care of her little baby, like a Te lead mother taking care of her little baby, would treat the little baby no different than a car in the auto body shop, which means, I have to do maintenance on this child, which means I have to change the diaper, change the bib, put it goes in laundry. And even though she emotionally cares for the child, nevertheless, the way that she performs the actions, day-to-day actions, is it's a robotic sense. It's no different than how she would perform maintenance in an auto body shop. Whereas an Fe lead with the child that they also love would approach the act of parenting as an act of character transformation. So it's like they're more so trying to adjust and evolve the nature of the child through the process of parenting them. That's why Fe leads tend to be more bossy, and they tend to give more advice, maybe a bit too much, for how you should live your life and all these things. Because, see, the thing about Fe is it wants to move forward causality. Both the JE functions want to move forward causality into an optimal order. But for TE, optimal order simply means like fixing asymmetries or dysfunctions. Let's say, for example, there's a parking lot and somebody parked their car in the way, and your job as a security guard of the parking lot is to get their car out of the way. You're fixing an asymmetry. You're fixing a disorder. Something's not where it should be.
Yeah.
So you're trying to optimize efficiency in a very sterile way, in a mechanical way.
Yeah.
But let's say for Fe, the goal is to repair the moral characters involved. For example, whoever parked the car there needs to learn a lesson. They need to not be so selfish and move their car out of the way because they're in people. So there's a task there. The task is not just to move the car out of the way. The task is this person needs to work on themselves and be more considerate. So making the person be more considerate is part of the to-do list.
So T is just, let's just get the thing done. Just look at the physical state, right? Just look at the physical state. How do I get the physical state to the state I want it to be, right?
Yeah.
And F is, I'll like maybe make that person feel shame or something like that. And then they will fix it themselves or something like that, right?
Yeah. And there's oftentimes a reasoning that goes something like this. The physical states end up in ruin because people's characters are shitty. And if you fix the people's characters, let's say society is going downhill. That's something an FE user likes to say a lot. And if society had better morals, etc., then we wouldn't have these logistical problems like people getting in the way of parking lots and so on. This is bad behavior at the social level. So the way to fix it is not to continue to hire more security guards, but it's like to get at the root of the issue, which is let's campaign for different social ethics, so to speak. I'm just giving an example.
So it's like fixing environment versus fixing people, right?
Yeah, exactly. Effie likes to think that the root of problems are people. And so you fix the people, you fix the problems.
Yeah. Can you know how in JI there was an asymmetry between T and Fi, right?
Yeah.
Can you show me the asymmetry between Fe and T?
Sure. So using that same example, both of them realize, number one, the car is out of place. And number two, the car ought to be in this parking space here. There's a free parking space, but they parked it in the front of the store, let's say. So there's an understanding object A needs to go to position B. They both see that, but at the same time, the FE also sees the moral character involved. For example, this guy's an asshole. This guy needs to be taught a lesson. Again, the moral judgment is there. The life-centric status of the situation is added to the object or added to the situation.
Okay, so both see object A needs to be object B
in position B, let's say.
So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, moving object A to location B. Yeah, so FE is like TE plus F, in a sense.
Yeah. And FE is seeing something additional, right? You said it sees the moral character of the person.
Yes. It's more so it sees the problem of the behavior. Because funny enough, see, here's where things get interesting. I hope I don't lose you with what I'm about to say, but I'll try to say it slow because there's a lot of things involved at the same time. Because the TE user will simultaneously, using their FI, they will register the character of the person as an asshole. So they'll see two things. The TE user will see, oh, this car's out of place. It should be over here. With one part of their brain, the TE part of their brain, the FI part of their brain will say, this person is an inconsiderate jerk, right? But it stops. It stops there. It's like they've made a value judgment about the person in a static way, but ultimately their solution will be, let me just move it in place or give them a ticket, period. At no point do they feel like they need to change the character of the person. They need to change the environment because that's how TE works. But they can still judge the person at an essential level for being a jerk.
So why don't they do that? What's the ontological bias? Do they think people can't change, or do they just prefer to change the environment?
The ontological bias is that essence is essential. That applies to everything that applies to themselves. And also essence is sacred. This is why when taken to the extreme, FI is the uttermost individualist. Like you do you, I do me. It's a very FI motto. Sorry, it's JI at the same time, but of the JI functions, FI is much more strongly represented in people that are complete snowflakes.
Because they don't want to change.
FI users, even in themselves, will say, I am who I am. You can't change me. What I am is who I am. And they're proud of that. There's a kind of a priori, factual, irreducible element to character. Whereas FE sees character as a state of being, a condition that is in flux and in motion because it attaches the F property to the causality adjustments of JE. So JE is the kind of thing that bends and changes things into different forms.
Yeah.
So F can...
Yes. Your mental state and your emotions there's statuses that you can jump around, like you can do the flowchart things.
Yeah. Exactly. So character is malleable because character is part of the flowchart. The conditions of your character can change. Mind over matter. Like even if you want to be a better person, you can do that. You just put in the hard work and you become different. Whereas the other axes, TE and FI, is more about being yourself, being your unapologetic self. It is possible for people to internally evolve in their own nature, but that does not happen through external pressure. Like for FI, because it's individualistic, it sees personal change as it's not fake it till you make it. It's not if you shame someone enough, it happens. It almost happens through an internal... You ever seen the movie The Grinch Stole Christmas?
Yeah.
Where at the end of the arc, his heart grows 3 sizes too big or too much. And so he went through a change of heart, but that change of heart was because his heart truly did change. It wasn't because anybody actually really pushed him. It's like a self-initiated change is a possibility, but not externally imposed conditioning, like social pressure. That doesn't work on them.
It's indirect change.
It could even be an internal contemplation, or it can be completely, not even just indirectly, but it can be completely internally driven by like self-reflection. But yeah.
That's good. Cool. It's like the two asymmetries are symmetrical, so it's balanced out. Yeah. I love symmetries. It's very cool. Beautiful symmetry. Cool. All right. Thanks, Auburn. See you later.
See ya.